Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have an amazing guest on today. This guy is, he's a doctor. He is a magician. He is a hypnotist, and he's going to hypnotize everybody watching and convince you to send me $100 each. I'm just kidding. I want to welcome my new friend, Dr. Steve Taubman, to the show. Steve, welcome to the show.
What a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Or should I say doctor, welcome to the show.
Now, you call me whatever you want to call me. Just don't call me late for dinner.
I'm with you, man. So as you and I were talking before we went live here, I created this show a couple of years ago to give back to the world, to help people get unstuck, to help them have a breakthrough. And I think that's like right inside of your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's essentially what I do.
That's awesome, man. So we have some amazing people. I want to say hi real quick to a few people. Susan Day, Ben Gay the third, my brother. How you doing? Janelle, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for everyone who's on here. And thank you in advance to anyone who shares this out. This is going to be, I think Dr. Steve is gonna give us some incredible value here. So Steve, why don't we start with where you tell everybody where you were born and raised?
Sure. Well, before I do that, I just want to say thanks for all the folks who are tuning in. I know some of the people you mentioned, and I'm so glad to see you here. Hi, Ben. So that's great. I started life in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, where my dad was stationed in the Army back in 1956. And I was born in an Army hospital, and that's where I was for the first probably 3 months of my life. And then my family went back to where they were from, which was Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And so I was there for the first couple of years of my life, and then Queens, New York. We started moving further out on Long Island. And eventually, when I hit the age of 5, we moved to Massapequa, which is where I grew up. Same places, Jerry Seinfeld and Alec Baldwin and Joey Buttafuoco.
That's in New York?
Yeah, Massapequa, Long Island, New York.
Nice. So that's where you went to school. That's where you went to high school, everything there in Massapequa.
There you go. Massapequa High School, graduated in 1974.
Wow. I was 6.
Nice.
You said nice. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate you pointing that out. So, hey, once you hit 50, it's like,
I don't know. The thing is, my mom used to lie about her age, and she'd tell people that she was younger than she was. Again, she looked good for her age, but I always thought if you're going to lie about your age, tell people you're older than you are. That way you look really good for your age.
Right. A friend of mine was talking about that he's younger than me. He's a year younger than me, and I'm like, dude, your entire head is gray, and I don't have any gray. So he goes, yeah, and guess what? As a result, people write me bigger checks because they think I'm wise.
You started painting your hair with a little bit of gray.
I know. I'm like, I gotta get some gray paint for my hair or something then. So now from there. So you graduated high school from Massapequa, New York, Long Island, and you went to college?
Yes, SUNY Albany, State University of New York in Albany. I did my first couple of years there, took a year off and came back again. And then when I wrapped up there, I went to chiropractic school and became a chiropractor. So I had a sports medicine chiropractic practice. Upon graduating from chiropractic school in New York, I moved up to Vermont with my then wife, who I met at chiropractic school, and we started our practice and I ran it with her for the first 4 years, and then she left practice, and I continued for another 10 years after that.
Wow, and that's like cracking backs. Did I just oversimplify the crap out of your?
Oh, no, that's cool. Yeah, of course. There's a lot more to it than that. And we usually don't use like that terminology because it makes it kind of cringe, but yes, adjusting spines.
So, look though, I gotta, because there's a lot of, in my opinion, I've heard a lot of misnomers about the chiropractic world, and that I've had people go, I'd never go see a chiropractor, and I'm like, look, I slipped 2 discs in my lower back and a couple in my neck area, and I went to a surgeon, and this is at 21 years old, and they were like, we're gonna have to operate, and I'm like, monkeys will fly out of your rear end before you start cutting on my back. Like, that's not happening. So I went to a chiropractor, and he saved my life, like literally saved my life. And so I've had a couple of spells with my back that and my spine that I actually, so I love the chiropractic world. Now I know that there are some people out there that don't know what they're doing, but they're rare. It's just like brain surgeons. There's brain surgeons that don't know what they're doing too. So, right.
Well, I'd rather go to a chiropractor who doesn't know what he's doing than a brain surgeon who doesn't know.
Amen. So you did that for a total of how long then? You went
14 years. I had
14, 14 years
in Vermont. And then I sold my practice in 1996.
Wow.
And at the end of 96, and then kind of embarked on my new life.
Wow. Okay. And what was your new life? What happened in 96 that made you
started out? I mean, I just reached a point in my practice where I was as successful as I was likely to get, which was pretty successful. I had the biggest sports medicine practice in the state, and one of the bigger ones in the country, and I still wasn't really happy, and I couldn't really tell you at the time why, but something told me that I needed to change. I needed to do something different.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I think it's just who I was meant to be in the world. I felt that I was meant to be in front of people instead of in an office. And it's all worked out really well. I love what I do now. But I took a year off from chiropractic practice, and I traveled the country. I also spent several months in Central America. And I had my own personal vision quest, kind of looked at my life and reflected on what was working and what wasn't working and what my priorities were. And I would encourage anybody who's unhappy in whatever it is they're doing, to not jump right into whatever the next thing is, but to really put that kind of period of emptiness in. The same with relationships. I think a lot of people, they get into a bad relationship and then they leave it for another relationship that ends up being a replica of the previous one.
Right.
They haven't really done the inner work or really reflected on how they make their choices. So I think we all need that that kind of period of reflection to get a better sense of who we are, what we're really about, and what we want.
Right.
So I did that, and I came back home again and was exposed to hypnosis, or re-exposed to hypnosis. I had some exposure to hypnosis in my sports medicine practice as a therapeutic tool. But
so you said you came back home. Was that Vermont or New York?
Vermont at that point. I could still consider Vermont home because it's been home since 1982.
Wow. That's awesome. I have some friends up there. So you were, so why Central America?
I wanted to work on Spanish. I wanted to become, I wanted to practice the language. I thought that would be a good project. And there are a number of places in the world where you can go and do sort of a residency, like you live with a family and work on your language skills. And Guatemala seems to be one of the best for a number of reasons. The dialects are easier to understand and follow and replicate, and it's less expensive than doing it in Spain. So it was a good choice, and it's a beautiful country. And at the time, it was just gorgeous.
But I mean, there's Rosetta Stone.
There is now, yeah. There wasn't in 1980, whenever that was.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. I was like,
I wanted the cultural experience, and it was, and it's a good thing too, because you get so much from traveling. You get so much from not just traveling the way a lot of Americans travel, like going on a weekend junket to Las Vegas, or a 1 week tour of every city in Europe. But when you go somewhere, hi Lynn, when you go somewhere and you spend a substantial amount of time there, it begins to work on you. It works on your priorities and gives you a sense of what is life really about. Our priorities here in this country tend to be pretty material, and when you go other places, you find out there's more to it.
Yeah, there definitely is. So you came back, to Vermont. Now, I like to kind of, I mean, you became a chiropractor, and which is amazing. But was there something that, um, here, I think that there's always something that happens, an event, a person, a group of people, something in childhood that kind of pushes us into, or kind of influences what we become as an adult. Is there anything that as a child you were like, yeah, that's why I want to be a chiropractor?
I always saw myself going into medicine, doing some kind of a healthcare thing. I think I was interested in science and helping people. So that was part of what moved me in that direction. I was a pre-med student. And the reason chiropractic and not, more allopathic medicine was that I took a year off from college and traveled. And a cousin of mine was married to a chiropractor, still married to a chiropractor. And I went and I shadowed him in his office and I learned about chiropractic and I was fascinated by it. The whole idea of holistic health and helping individuals without the use of drugs and surgery really appealed to me. And there was a lot of logic to it. It had a lot of, kind of, just basic wisdom associated with it. And I just fell in love with the profession and I went on to chiropractic school and loved it and went on to be a chiropractor.
That's awesome, man. So you come back from Central America after being a chiropractor for 14 years. You go to Central America to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more complicated way to learn Spanish, but I'm sure it was an amazing adventure. But so you come back and you are re-exposed to hypnosis.
Yes. And so I studied with a guy by the name of Scott McFall, who is a clinical and stage hypnotist, and then followed that up with some training with the American Board of Hypnotherapy and got certified. And my desire at that point wasn't to go into a clinical practice, but rather to do stage hypnosis, that is to entertain.
Yeah.
Hypnosis. And it's a very entertaining thing. And so I started doing that and I became very successful at it. I was the official hypnotist for MTV Spring Break.
What?
A dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Wow. Yeah, dirty, horrible.
No, it was pretty amazing. So I got to perform in Jamaica and Barbados and the Bahamas and for a few years, and it was pretty amazing. And in that period of time, I was also studying mindfulness, studying meditation and mindfulness practices. Really, at first for myself. In other words, how do I deal with my own inner demons and help myself to be the person I want to be and overcome, old programming and break through my walls. And so I started learning about meditation, and it was something I was doing, and it was something that I was, practicing and studying. And while I was in Jamaica I was doing a hypnosis show for like 2,000 or 2,500 college kids on the beaches. Wow. And I was doing all the things that, I don't know if you've ever seen a hypnosis show, but pretty funny. Yeah. I've got people milking a cow, and I've got people conducting an orchestra, and I've got one guy thinks he's pregnant.
And this is on the beaches of Jamaica?
Big stage, big like rock and roll stage on the beach. And, and I've got maybe 20, 25 people on stage and 2,500 off stage watching. And in the middle of one particular show, I decided to try something different. And so I took one of my subjects and I said, when you wake up, 3 things are going to happen. And I had never done this before. I just decided to give it a shot. So I said, number 1, you don't believe you're hypnotized, even though you are. And I said, number 2, this is the worst show you've ever seen, and you are aggravated with me. And I said, number 3, there's an invisible wall 3 feet in front of you. So I woke everybody up and I said, how's everybody doing? And everybody said, we're great, except for that one guy. He screams, you suck. So I said, what's the problem? He says, this show is terrible. I said, well, then leave. And the guy gets up and he starts walking. And he goes, and he hits this wall.
Oh my gosh.
And he can't move. And he finally sits back down and he crosses his arms and he starts to pout. So I said, what's the problem? And the guy goes, nothing. I said, are you hypnotized? He goes, no. I said, "Are you having fun?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, then why don't you leave?" And the guy thinks for a minute, and he says, "I'm not going to give you the satisfaction."
Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
So what happened in that moment was fascinating. First of all, it was very funny. Uh,
Yeah.
but I realized something really profound in that moment, because as a meditator and somebody learning about these, these
Yeah.
ways in which we block ourselves, I suddenly had this epiphany, and I thought, that's all of us, right? We're all trying to get somewhere. Like he's trying to get off stage. We're all trying to get somewhere, and we start moving towards our goals or our desires, and then we hit our invisible walls,
Yep.
and we
Wow.
and we push and we push and we try to use effort to get where we want to go. And of course, effort doesn't break the walls, right? Why? Because you're the one who's creating them. So as hard as you push is exactly as how hard you're pushing back. So
Wow.
so it was that experience that suddenly like fell into place for me, and I said, that's the problem. The problem for us as human beings is that we're all hypnotized,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
We're all programmed, and as a result, we're all stuck behind invisible walls, and we keep thinking we're going to break through them by figuring out what's going on outside of ourselves. And if we could fix that, then we're gonna, then we'll move through. Hi, Linda. Then we'll break through. But the reality is that the only way to break through the invisible wall is to awaken, to wake up. We started talking about that earlier. To
Yeah.
wake up to the fact that there are no walls and that it's just an illusion. But as long as the illusion seems real, the illusion is real, or it acts as if it's real. So everything I've been teaching ever since has to do with techniques for waking up.
Wow, man. I talk about this a lot, actually. You haven't even seen any of my wow. Unbelievable. So, I mean, I literally talk about this all the time. One of my favorite songs is by Creed called My Own Prison, because we build our own prisons. And I talk about it all the time. That's crazy, man.
And you know that woman from Gurdjieff, the philosopher Gurdjieff, said the first step for escaping from prison is realizing you're in prison.
Right.
And most of us don't. Most of us just assume that, we're living up to our potential, and it's just a question of what everybody else is doing to us.
Yeah.
Or what the world is doing to us. But when we really recognize that we've created our own walls, then we begin to re-envision where our power is, and figure out ways of getting over them.
Oh my gosh. This is good, man. I don't even like, okay, so because I know you're also a magician, and I want you to show some tricks, but like this is so powerful. This is what holds people back in life. It is, right? So
yeah.
Wow, dude. Sorry, Dr. Dude. So
I'm gonna use that from now on. I like that.
Yeah, I have a doctor friend, an optometrist friend of mine. I'm like, Dr. Dude, what's up? When he calls me. So, and he has all of his practices are in Jamaica, by the way. He has 8 locations. So, but yeah, he loves Jamaica. Anyway, so you started doing this. How did you get a gig with MTV? How does that happen? Like they called you one day and
started out with programs for the DJ who was in charge of planning all the entertainment at Margaritaville in Jamaica, and then that introduction got made from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's so cool, man. So you started doing this, and then I mean, how many years did you do that?
The Jamaica, that thing was, I think, about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. And then what happened next? I mean, I know that you do more than hypnosis. I keep wanting to say hypnotherapy. It's not the same, right? Or is it?
I do some of that as well. So hypnotherapy is just using hypnosis as a therapeutic form, and hypnosis is great for therapy for certain things. It's very effective and pretty consistent. Like, for example, even when I'm just doing a show, I'll get people together at the end of the show, the people I've hypnotized, and offer them a phobia cure. So maybe they're afraid of spiders or snakes or something like that. Hypnosis is very, very profound for changing that, because if you think about it, hypnosis is meant to help you reprogram thoughts, subconscious thoughts, and a phobia is nothing more than a thought, right? How you think of or how you view this particular thing. And once you overcome that phobia, once you change that thought, problem solved. It's not like, like smoking cessation where there are still physiological components to it.
Right, right.
100% in your head.
I absolutely agree. I love that, man. So this might turn into my favorite interview ever. So well, you know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is, right?
Dr. Joe is awesome.
I love the guy, and I like listen to everything he talks about because it is all about the mind and spirit and body connection. There is.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that how powerful your thoughts really are. So take somebody that is let me paint a scenario. Let's say that somebody maybe has made at the most $1,000 a week in their life. That's the top that they've ever earned. But they have the desire of making $20,000 a week, right? But there, you know, and I know that Joe Ingram is on here. He's mad now. I interviewed Joe. He's like, favorite interview. What? Come on, Joe.
Second favorite, Joe.
Second, yeah. So the what is it that, how do you help people get past that? Because it is literally, it's a mindset, it's a thought, reprogramming your neuro pathways. It's literally just a change in the way you're thinking and approaching something. Is that correct?
Yeah, I create a pyramid in my mind, and I try to describe this to people. So if you look at the tip of the pyramid, it's results, right? You're trying to achieve new results.
Right. What's
underneath the results? What the foundation of results is action. What's the action that is necessary to achieve that particular set of results, right?
Right.
Now, underneath action are beliefs. What are your thoughts, your beliefs, what's going on inside of your head that's propelling you to take certain actions versus other actions, right?
Yeah.
And about as deep as most people go. Now, my contention is that there's one layer deeper than that, and that's the layer of what's called presence. Now, presence basically means, have you developed the ability to stand in the moment, in this, this particular moment in time, and look with clarity at what your beliefs are? You see, because most of us are so caught up in our beliefs that we don't even know what our beliefs are.
Right.
Right. So,
yep.
So to reprogram your beliefs requires that you're standing somewhere other than inside of your beliefs. And so you really need to learn how to get quiet. Yep. You really need to learn how to focus. And so that's why, to me, mindfulness is so important, because without mindfulness, you are the victim of your beliefs. So first we develop it. Now let's also go back to the pyramid and look at it in terms of effect and consciousness. If you are a pretty unconscious person, meaning that you've been going through life figuring that the whole world is responsible for your well-being and you've got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I might know a couple people like that.
Those people, if they're not getting the results that they want, they're just going to get angry because they figure they deserve those results. And so why aren't they coming to me? Right. So they're just stuck at the very tip of the pyramid. And of course, without doing anything, nothing changes. Nothing changes until you change it. Now, somebody who's slightly more conscious might say, well, if I want to get better results, I've got to at least do something different. So that individual, they're a little more conscious, and at least now they realize that there are new steps that need to be taken, and they may set out to try to take those steps, but then they might, like we talked about earlier, hit a wall.
Right.
So they're all about understanding that action is necessary, but they haven't yet been empowered to consistently maintain positive action steps. Right. Now, the more conscious person is the person who's going to say, I look back over my life, and when I was younger and kind of dumb, I used to just want my results to change by magic. And then I finally got smart enough to realize I had to do something for that to happen.
Right.
And after going through that round a few times, realizing that I seem to lack control over taking consistent action.
Right.
I know that action is necessary, but for some reason, I can't always do it. Maybe I get discouraged or afraid or depressed, or all of a sudden I'm in the middle of taking action and suddenly I get bored.
Right.
And now I figure, why bother? And it's a cycle. I keep doing that. And when I get bored, when I lose momentum, when I lose steam, I don't know why. So I just stop. Right. And so that individual is now looking at the third layer of this pyramid down, and they're saying, I know what the problem is. The problem is that I need to change my beliefs. Right. Because if I change my beliefs, if I change the way I think at the deepest subconscious level, then I will automatically be more inclined to take the right actions, which will then more likely create the proper results. Well, right? It's very logical. And that's almost as deep as you can go, but there's that final layer, which is this. If all you're going to do is try to change your beliefs without having the deeper level of consciousness of presence, then what it's going to look like is, I'm going to say affirmations, right? I don't like what I believe, so I'm going to go around saying I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And I'm just going to repeat these things to myself, which is, it's a blunt instrument that doesn't work that well, because every time you say I'm awesome, there's another part of you saying, no, you're not. I'm great. You're not. And so you're at odds with yourself, because the deeper subconscious beliefs are being, are pushing up against this attempt that you're making to try to change them. So that's where I say sink all the way down into silence. Like, find that place of inner quiet where, as beliefs arise, you have more mastery over how you change them. And then when you do that, which is very foundational, now your beliefs will change. Now your results will change. Now your actions will change. Now your results will change.
Right. So, and I agree 100%. In fact, when I'm coaching, I coach and consult with, business owners and help them grow in their business, right? Because that's everybody's goal. But, I teach, like, affirmations are unbelievably important, writing them out to help reprogram your neuro pathways. But more important than that is you have to clear your neuro pathways, and that comes through meditation. I have a chapter in my book that I wrote on meditation, and there's a story about, and it's an old ancient, and in fact, Jack Canfield wrote the same story in his book, The Success Principles. But it's literally about learning how to connect with God, or whatever you choose to call God, but learning how to connect with that power right there beneath the xiphoid process. And once you learn how to, and I've meditated every day of my life for the past 16 and a half years. So, I totally, I'm like, wow, I love this interview. So
almost the interview with Joe.
Joe's is a very close. I'm kidding. Joe said, finally, another genius.
Joe and I are going to be doing some work together, so I'm really excited about that.
Joe's awesome. I love Joe. So we talk almost every day now. But here's the thing, though. Like, you have this, everything you just described is a process. It's not an event. It's a process, right? And we live in a microwave society, I like to call it. Everybody wants it done right now. And so, with what you're doing, though, on a stage, or even if we were just standing there and you're like, dude, I'm going to hypnotize you right now. And I'm like, okay. And you hypnotized me. And you said, all right, when you wake up, you're going to bark like a dog on command. And then I do it because I'm hypnotized. Right. So, like, how do you create such an immediate, like right now, immediate, result? Because we know that meditation and everything else is like, it's a process. You don't produce the end result immediately, but in a hypnotized state, you can.
Okay, let me try to answer this really carefully for you, because
I'm not sure I'm asking the question properly either. So
I get where you're going with it, and it's a really important question. And I could probably approach it from a couple different angles. So let me see if I can make some sense out of this.
Okay.
First of all, let me say something about hypnosis to help make a distinction, because when you think of hypnosis, there's actually two things that we're talking about. One of them is the state of consciousness, In other words,
Right.
hypnotized meaning I'm in a kind of trance-like state, right? That's one way of defining hypnosis. Another way is like I've been hypnotized as in I am operating at the effect of suggestions that I received while I was in a hypnotic state. Hey, Bob. Um, so those are two different things, right? Hypnotized meaning I'm in the state of consciousness, or hypnotized as in I've been programmed.
Yeah.
Follow the
Right.
difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you enter into a hypnotic state, it is very much like a meditative state. You're in a very, sort of quiet. No, you're not, Lynn. You're not, I don't know if everybody else sees these, but we've got. I'm
Yeah,
like,
they see him.
okay, good. It's like people think I'm just talking to the air or something, but
No.
it's come across. I'd like to acknowledge them because we're getting some really fun comments along the way and some really awesome people popping up.
Yeah.
And somebody said hello, gorgeous, and I don't know if they meant me or you, but if it was me, yeah.
I think that was Joe talking to both of us.
Okay, well, hello, gorgeous. Okay. If someone enters a hypnotic state, they are in a more receptive, open state for a change to take place in a thought or a paradigm, something they've been believing for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why a phobia is a fairly easy thing to cure, because even though it could be really persistent in our lives, it could cause us a lot of misery. In reality, it's really just one thought. It's not a complex of interlocking thoughts. Usually, it's something we can usually solve pretty quickly.
Right. Right.
So in that hypnotic state, it's possible to just rewire a thought like that.
Right.
But as you said, mindfulness, the ability to achieve a level of consciousness where you can essentially become your own hypnotist, that's a process that takes time.
Yes.
So this is why meditation is a practice, because most people aren't going to get it the first time or the 10th or the 100th time. It's something that we do over and over again. And as we do it, we become more adept at reaching a place of inner silence. And early in the process, I mean, what's interesting, because I've coached a lot of people on this, most people who start meditation, they have one or two great meditations when they start. And it gives them this sort of hope that it's going to go that way from now on. It usually doesn't. It's like beginner's luck, right? And then the next thing that happens is that they enter into a period of where it's a real challenge.
Right.
And then if you talk to people, if I'm in an audience, I've got 500 people in the audience, and I say, how many people here have tried to meditate? And, almost every hand goes up. And I'll say, how many of you here have tried to meditate, but you stopped because it didn't work? And, almost all the same hands go up. And then that's when I kind of lay it on them, where I say, listen, when you say it didn't work, what do you mean? And what they mean is, and they'll say this right outright. They'll say, well, I tried to quiet my mind, but it didn't work, but it just got noisy, right? It just got noisy inside.
Yeah.
You just see, can you hypnotize a schizophrenic to help them recognize what is real, what is not? I don't think so, Susan. I could be wrong about that. I have no personal experience in that area. But it's been asked before, and I've tried to get some info on it. It's not anything anybody has a consistent answer to.
Right.
But getting back to this, the notion that that if you are practicing silence, what you're actually doing is you're practicing returning to silence, meaning that I'm going to sit here quiet, and my mind's going to start to wander. And then I'm going to bring it back. And then it's going to start to wander again. I'm going to bring it back. And that entire process, for whatever the period of time you're doing it, maybe a half hour, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, that entire process can be like going into battle. It's not necessarily a peaceful process. And you could come out of it and say, that didn't work. But the reality is, yeah, it really did work, because every time you bring your attention back into the moment, what you're doing is you're flexing your focus muscles.
Yep.
Strengthening your ability to bring your attention into this moment. And if you will allow yourself the luxury of doing that through the tough times and bringing your attention back into the moment, whether through meditation or other techniques we could talk about, what'll happen is the benefits, the fruits of your labor won't, the holosync is awesome. The fruits of your labor won't necessarily show up while you're meditating, but they will absolutely show up during your life when you're not meditating. You'll find yourself being more patient, more compassionate. You'll find you have a better sense of humor. You'll even find that you think quicker, like you're smarter.
Yep.
Because neurologically, these shifts really do take place. And they take place when you commit yourself to taking a finite period of time and practicing to bring your attention into the moment. And that may be your breath, it may be your physical sensation, it may be a candle flame, maybe a mantra. It doesn't really matter in the context of beginning to develop that kind of focus, what you're focusing on. What matters is that you keep doing it, you keep becoming aware when your mind wanders, and the moment you're aware of it, you bring it back. And then you start developing awareness of where your mind is. And that's a very powerful thing to know.
I love that, man. And you know, Weldon just made a, do you see the comments on the right-hand side?
I see some comments. I didn't see Weldon's comment. I've seen, of course, Joe's comments popped up. Lynn,
well, I'm popping those up on the screen on the right side. You'll see a menu. Click on comments. You can see everything.
Oh, look at that! Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I see them all.
Yeah.
I see Jason. I see Lynn, Robert.
Yep. So Weldon says, hypnotize me, please. I'm always thinking I need to be at the beach, but this, and he's being honest, but he's also being funny.
Yeah.
The funny part I find though is I believe you can literally, it's called reframing, right? Like you can reframe just about like Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, right? Yeah. Unbelievable book that references reframing your situation. And he had a serious situation he needed to reframe and invented logotherapy. But you know, so like explain to Weldon how he could reframe that.
Well, then you've got a couple options there. You know, one option for you is to get hypnotized to think you're at the beach while you're at work,
right?
Which I'm sure your boss would love to no end.
He owns the company.
Oh, there you go. No problem.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many different elements to to like building the life of your dreams. And, you know, I really think that it's important to have time for leisure and have time to, you know, to create that beautiful experience that you want to experience. And for one thing, you know, what a lot of very successful people do is they spend a certain amount of time creating painting their picture, creating a visual for themselves of what they want their lives to look like. Some people do, you know, vision boards, or we'll often have people make recordings where they record in multiple sensory representational systems, what they see, what they hear, what they feel, what they taste, when their life is where they want it to be. So and then you dedicate periods of time during the day, like you literally or figuratively go to the beach for 10 minutes a day. And for that 10 minutes, you experience it with as much vividness as possible. And it tends to start a ball rolling inside of you where you start to get better at figuring out how do I construct my life in such a way that I get to do what I really love and want to do without shirking my responsibilities elsewhere. And, you know, when push comes to shove, you know what it always comes down to? Time management.
Yeah.
Time management, priorities. How am I spending my time? Am I blocking my time effectively? Am I totally doing what I'm supposed to do while I'm doing it? Or am I thinking about the beach while I'm at work and thinking about work while I'm at the beach, which is how most of us live our lives? Or do I become so good at being present time conscious?
Yeah.
That not only is every moment being used to its maximum effectiveness, and therefore allowing me to have more time to do things I want to do, but also every moment takes on a quality that half of your attention could never give you.
Right.
Right. So and I teach this, see, another technique I teach for mindfulness, I call it cherish the mundane. Right. Now, cherish the mundane basically means taking a mundane activity like washing the dishes, where what you would ordinarily do is I'm washing the dishes, but at the same time, I'm talking to somebody else, or I'm watching TV, or I'm yelling at my kids, or I'm, thinking about what I need to do next. And instead, you decide I'm going to wash each dish as if it were my child. And I wash that dish with complete reverence and focus, and I don't let anything else get in the way. And then I move on to the next dish. Now, of course, you break less dishes that way.
Yeah.
But you also have this remarkable experience that nobody could, I could tell you this and you're not going to believe it until you do it yourself. But that when you do it, it goes faster, not slow. You think, well, if I'm going to wash every dish like my baby, it's going to take forever to wash the dishes. But in reality, what will happen is that time seems to shrink. You'll experience that time as passing really quickly because you're giving it your undivided attention. You're giving it your focus.
Yep.
So whenever you give anything your undivided attention, it alleviates boredom. It alleviates a sense of purposelessness. It fills you up. And it's amazing how many things in your life that you've just decided aren't worth your attention.
I think that, and you may agree or may not agree. I'm not sure, but you know, I think that we have this, and I don't know if it's been forever or if it's just in the recent 10, 20 years. We have an issue in society with placing a label on everything. Like, I'm a schizophrenic, and if I believe that enough, then I'm probably going to be a schizophrenic. Or if I believe, like,
I'm a
well,
schizophrenic, and so am I.
yeah, right, exactly. And Weldon says, I'm working on my time management problem. As soon as you acknowledge you have a time management problem, you make it a real deal. Like, you know, and I like, so what you're talking about, do you know who Pema Chadron is?
Yeah, I've spent time with her.
I love her, and she has amazing videos. Because I have a lot of people say, well, Ken, how do I learn how to meditate? And I go, it's not something you learn, it's something you do. It's just it's being. And I talk about focusing on right here, the breath coming in and out of your nostrils, and nothing else. But Pema says, hey, the tiger, meaning your thoughts, your mind, the tiger's going to run. It's going to run. And you just have to watch it, observe it, try to be the observer of those thoughts and watch it. And it'll come back. It'll come back around. And when it comes back around, just welcome it back and continue to focus on your breath. That's the way that I've meditated for many, many, many years. So
the thing about meditation is that there are, it's a lot easier to get in trouble by learning too much than by not learning enough, because it's a very simple course. It's like,
right.
Anybody to meditate in a minute, and then if they just go ahead and do that, it'll work. The problem is that you also need to prepare people for the inevitable tiger.
Yes.
Right? Because they're going to think that it's not working, when in reality, that's part of the whole deal. It's like, you got to kind of take that 20,000-foot view of what meditation really is.
Yeah.
And other mindfulness practices like the one I described, that all of these practices are designed to put you into an exercise regime when it comes to your focus.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. And once you get that, and you're willing to put up with it, because like you said, we live in a microwave society and we all want a quick fix. And, that's when we brought up the question of hypnosis. Hypnosis can be a quick fix for a simple problem, but it's not going to be a quick fix for your entire mental structure. Right? It's going to give you a glimpse of what it looks like to go into a different state of consciousness. It's going to give you a glimpse into the before and after of when you let go of an old persistent pattern of thinking. But if you want to really, as I said, become your own hypnotist, if you want to be somebody who is dissecting like a surgeon,
right,
of your own mind, and looking at everything you do every day of your life through the eyes of self-improvement. I noticed that I get angry when somebody cuts me off on the road. Well, I could continue just being angry about that, or I could say, there's an opportunity to notice another place in my life where I need some work.
Yes.
And we're constantly being given the gift of revelation.
Amen.
Yep. There's another way you could be, working on yourself. There's another way. And one of the benefits of doing this kind of work for me over the course of the last many years I've been doing it is I very seldom get mad and stay mad at anybody or anything. Because the moment I notice myself getting mad, I'm like, oh, that one gotcha.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the question isn't about them, it's about me.
Dude, I love that. That's so true. You can't, I'm friends with Grant Cardone, and Grant says, whatever you see in me, whatever you like or dislike is in you. And he's 1,000% correct.
Yeah.
1,000%. And it's taken me a long time to realize that the problem isn't out there. It's not out there, everybody. It's not out there. I don't care what the problem is you have in your life. It's not out there. It's in here. And I got to fix what's in here. I got to look at that. And what you're talking about is the path.
Well, it's a hard sale what you're trying to sell right now, because people say, yeah, my boss is a jerk. I mean, you can't convince me that my boss is not a jerk. He is.
Right.
So in that sense, yeah, there's stuff going on out there that's unpleasant, but it's
Sure.
still an opportunity for you. It's still something that you could work with. I mean, I've dealt with people that a lot of people have a hard time dealing with, and I don't necessarily have a hard time dealing with them, not because they're not difficult people to deal with, but because I don't care. I just don't. It doesn't trigger me. So the question isn't whether or not there's stuff going on out there. The question is whether or not you're triggered by it.
Right.
If you can master your ability to stay centered, serene, calm, peaceful, happy, and amused, which is a really good one. This is why I was always fascinated. When I was a kid, I used to see pictures of gurus and people up on the mountaintop. They were always very, very serious looking.
Yeah.
Then I started meeting these dudes, and they're all like really funny and lifelike and playful.
Right.
I met the Dalai Lama, and the guy, he had a great sense of humor. We were in a small group of doctors, and somebody said to the Dalai Lama, there's this rift between the Eastern and the Western views of medicine, and how do we reconcile them? And he's up there, he says, I don't know, I'm just a monk.
Right.
It's like, I don't know,
right.
the attitude of I don't have to know everything.
Right.
And, life is funny, from the right perspective.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's stuff out there, but it's not the stuff that's going to ultimately determine your well-being if you understand the process. And the process, if you want to have a word or two about that, is that first and foremost, you have to decide that I'm responsible for my own happiness and I want to be happy, right? So I choose happiness, not as in I'm just going to walk around smiling all the time. That's nonsense, and that's not how we really operate, and it's superficial, right? It's not a Pollyanna thing. It's just a question of, if my life is working, it's because I'm happy, so I might as well be observing whether or not I am. So that's step one. Step two is, nobody who's living an immoral life, like a life where they're stealing and cheating and causing suffering, none of those people are going to end up being really truly happy.
Right.
So ultimately, we all need to live by a code of conduct, whatever that is for us. We need to learn how to live by our own code of conduct, so that we are sort of setting up a foundation within which we can create a good life and be happy.
Right.
And that's what religion gives us, right?
Yep.
But the third step is the part that mindfulness gives us, which is the ability to focus. It's what the Buddhists call samadhi, concentration. You need to practice to concentrate, to be present, to be in the moment, so that you're not being drawn off in many different directions and letting your mind run you amok. That's why my favorite mantra, the mantra that I thought I wrote it, somebody told me somebody else wrote it, but I've been saying it for a lot of years, is don't believe everything you think.
Right.
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 So that's the third step, right? The fourth step is that once you develop that necessary strength from bringing your attention back and bringing it back and bringing it back in meditation and mindfulness practices, then the moment that you do become aggravated, you instantly shift into that awareness that this is a great opportunity for me to practice bringing my attention back. Let me see what it feels like to sit inside of the discomfort rather than trying to fix it in my head and get the other person to realize how stupid they are.
Well, and I read somewhere, I think it was the Dalai Lama, I'm not sure, would say, I have so many things to get done today, so much to accomplish, I must meditate longer.
That's a great line. Yeah. And that's the whole Stephen Covey sharpen your saw, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're thinking that if we put in more effort and more time and more focus into this one thing, that it's going to get better. But here's another mantra for you. It says, fix the mood before you fix the mess.
Right.
Yeah. So you're miserable and you're trying to do this thing and you're doing it with a lot of intensity but not a lot of efficiency. And what you really need to do is just step back from it and just get centered. And then when you return to whatever it was, you're more efficient and effective. Or it turns out you didn't really need to do anything anyway, because you're only thinking you do because you're all stressed out.
Right. Dude, we are already at 50 minutes into an hour-long interview. We can go a little bit longer, but I'm absolutely blown away by this conversation. It's amazing. So with And I'm sitting here like I have, I've read for many, many, many years. I've studied this stuff, so I could sit here and talk to you literally all day, and people would probably get bored with our conversation. But like I think that you we don't have to show off your magician tricks unless you want to. I mean, we kind of prepared for it. But you are a magician also.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way in this context, and we'll do it quickly so that we can get back to our conversation.
Yeah.
So, I will do one magic trick, and I got some rubber bands I've been fiddling with, so I might as well do something with rubber bands.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you before I do it that my frame around magic is that one of the most powerful tools at our disposal if we want to become more conscious as human beings. I already said you need to learn to get quiet, right? To create silence. And at the same time, our minds are constantly whirring, and it's very difficult for us to shut off our brains. It's something we just don't do well, certainly in our society.
Right.
So one of the most powerful tools at our disposal to just momentarily shut off our brains is astonishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a good belly laugh will do that too. So like that feeling you get when you like laugh until you're tearing up, and then you go and then all of a sudden like you hear that like ringing in your ears. You have this sort of quiet serene feel.
Yep.
That's an awesome place to be, and it's something that we could all benefit from going to. And magic is something that can create that momentary gap in our ongoing thought process. So that's one of the reasons I do magic. Okay, rubber bands. You guys are not here in the flesh, so you're just going to have to trust me that these are, in fact, real rubber bands. And the reason I do this trick is because most people are familiar with a famous trick called the linking rings, with the metal rings that link together.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you don't own your own linking rings, you're a little suspicious about the prop.
Right.
So I thought, what if I did the same thing just using rubber bands? And so the idea is if I take one rubber band on my fingers and I put another one behind it like this, so my hands are linked together. And I just want to make sure that reflect that. I don't know if you're seeing it.
Yep.
This is really hard to do, by the way, because I go right and it goes left. So it's the opposite of a mirror, but they are linked together, right? So check this out. All I have to do is give a little pull, and one of them pulls right through the other one.
Dude, that is insane, man.
I'm going to do it again because you might have looked away. So they are really linked. I can't get out that way or that way. Right? I can't get out that way or that way. It's not a puzzle. It's an optical illusion. They're definitely linked together. No matter how you look. The only way to get them out is to melt them right through each other like that, and they come apart.
Wow. That is really cool.
Thanks. By the way, because I had somebody say, they said, well, if you get them to unlink, can you also get them to link? So if I push on one of them, it links right through the other one, and then one rubber band is inside the other one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the only way to get that out of there is to break the rubber band. But if you blow on it, it heals.
Oh my gosh. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Wow. Joe says, being a certified rubber band inspector, I testify that these are in fact real. Oh my God.
It's good to know that was here with us to witness that. Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Yeah. So I can't stress enough that I read a book by M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, many years ago. And that was kind of the book that set me on a journey. I mean, big time. Took on a whole new definition of the word love and what it actually meant, and a lot of other amazing things. And so I think people overanalyze meditation. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, we'll overanalyze anything if it'll get us away from getting quiet. It's our ego trying to protect us from the experience of annihilation, because our ego doesn't want to go away. We want to believe and continue to believe that we are our thoughts.
Yeah.
I am my thoughts, right? There's nothing else there. So my thoughts hold sway over me. And if I get quiet, it's tantamount to death, right? Inside, I feel panic. I feel fear. And so we've got to face a lot of difficult, uncomfortable feelings if we're going to actually begin the journey out of our egos. So we're constantly trying to protect ourselves. And what's the best way to to stay where you are is to just start talking about it, right? Just talking, so we keep on thinking about it and talking about it. And and in the meantime, we're avoiding the inevitable, right?
Wow. That's powerful, man. That's so powerful. So talk about what you do now, because you're like a globetrotter now.
I am. I get to hang out with my guru. You want to meet my guru?
Yeah. Uh that's awesome.
That's Woody. What am I doing now? So right now, I have the wonderful good fortune to be connected with Eric Swanson from Habitude Warrior Conference. Used to be Universal Seminars, and he orchestrates these remarkable conferences all over the country. And so I'm one of the speakers on his stage, but I also get to go out to cities where we're going to run a conference and
Right.
and teach workshops. Kind of give everybody the tip of the iceberg, give them a little sample of what they'll get from attending our programs. And so I'm spending my days going into offices, real estate, insurance, mortgage, title, car dealerships, financial planners, and teaching them some of the principles of success, some of the characteristics and habits and attitudes of highly successful people. And then, giving them an invitation to attend our conference at a discounted rate. So that's the model. And it's been interesting because it's got me in various cities. I've been in San Antonio and Austin and Houston and St. Louis and Raleigh, North Carolina. And there's Eric Swanson himself, the man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Woohoo. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, and getting to partner with this buddy of mine and learn more about the inside of the business and what it takes to impact people in this way. So
That's so funny. Look what Joe just said. How did Eric?
I think he's got a radar. He's like,
I know. Wow.
probably like walking down the street, and all of a sudden he was like, I think somebody's talking about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you're traveling around with Eric and setting all of this up.
Yeah. So Eric and I, well, we're not always traveling together, but we do meet up in various cities and hang out, and we're on the phone every day.
Yeah.
It's been an education. I'm learning a lot about well, a lot of things. I think it's interesting to be speaking. I mean, in my background, for many years I was a keynote speaker in front of lots of people. 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people on a big stage where got the boom microphone. You look like Britney Spears' grandfather, and I now I'm doing these things where I'm in front of maybe 10, 15, 20 people, and it's a much more intimate environment, and it gives me an opportunity to teach at a deeper level.
Sure.
So it's really enjoyable, and it's these are mostly business people, and so I'm teaching stuff that 10 years ago was just considered new age nonsense, right? And now we're aware that this is like pretty foundational to a successful person.
Well, I think that there's just a lot of, I mean, look, from my perspective, I grew up in a being sent to a church that was a Pentecostal church, and you get programmed and to believe all of these things and this hellfire and brimstone stuff. And I don't believe all that today. I mean, I believe that Jesus came here to teach us something unbelievably valuable that a lot of religions have just totally messed up. There's a book called Power versus Force that actually is about kinesiology. And it talks, I've read that book 3 times. It's an amazing book. And it talks about that, like, wake up. Like, right. So man, I could listen, Steve, I could sit here all day and talk to you about this stuff. I mean, I love what you're doing and who you are, and I celebrate it. I think you're a phenomenal human doing. There's a difference, right? Difference between human being and human doing, and you're out there doing it. Is there a place where everybody should follow you? Is Facebook or Instagram better, or what's the best place?
I don't do Instagram. I probably should, but I haven't. And so, yeah, I'm on Facebook. I do almost all my posting on my own personal page, and I haven't, you know, you could still you sneak in there before I finally hit that top number. I do
Yeah.
have a bit, whatever it is, a fan page, and you can go there too. So it's either Steve Taubman or Dr. Steve Taubman. You can join them both. You'll probably get more content on the plain old Steve Taubman Facebook page. And you can definitely go to my website, which is stevetaubman.com.
Okay.
And there are, by the way, some podcasts and blog posts and things and interviews with other amazing people. So, yeah, check it out. Join my universe, visit me. And we got a question from Eric over here. What's one of the best
Yeah,
things
from the audience.
right? For their own excuses. Besides slapping them? Well, that's a great question. Eric is asking, what's the best technique to overcome a concern?
Sorry. There it is.
People seem to fight for their own excuses. It's almost impossible to get somebody else to not fight for their own excuses. It's got to be something we do ourselves, right? So what I say is when you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them, right? Because like I remember my sister, when my mom was passing, and my sister was the one who was primarily responsible for getting my mother into the nursing home and dealing with the live at home people and all that. And she was stressing out.
Yeah.
And at one point, we had a couple of wins, a couple of good things happen, and my sister was still acting like she was really down because, well, the next bad thing is going to happen soon.
Right.
And I said, Donna, you are allowed to feel some relief when good stuff happens too.
Yeah.
And she wrote back and she said, don't tell me how I should feel. I have a right to feel bad. And I said, yep, okay, go for it. And that's when people fight for their excuse, they fight for their misery, then you don't have a lot of power to help them through that.
There's nothing you can do. Because I think that that is number one thing that's holding people back, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that they hold on to that. That's not that there's nothing you can do. It's that you can't hit it head on, and there's got to be a certain degree of readiness, right? Now, most people have some readiness because they've probably been through this a few times before.
Right.
I mean, there's a short and a long answer to this, right? The short answer, obviously, is let people work out their own stuff. The longer answer is if you notice somebody keeps on hitting the same walls over and over again, what you really need to do is to point this out to them. And at least introduce them to the idea that they're creating their own misery, and then see where they land with that. If they're willing to open up to that possibility, maybe you give them a great book that teaches them about that. You give them Power versus Force.
Yeah.
Or you give them Power of Now, or you give them one of my books. You do something to introduce them to that concept rather than you trying to lecture them into the change, because if you try to lecture them into the change, the more you push, the more they push back.
I've been sober 17 and a half years, and I was in the recovery movement for a long time. And there was this kid I was trying to help him get his life together. And I said, he kept relapsing. And he would call me, I'm going to drink. I'm going to go get drunk. And I would freak out. And I was like, no, don't do it, man. You can't drink. And, and then he'd go do it. And I was like, son of a, and I'd go through this process with him over and over and over. And my sponsor was Buddhist. And he says, hey, the next time he calls you, tell him, okay, let me know how that works out for you, and hang up. And so the next time he called, I said, do you need some money to buy your first drink? I'll help you out with that. I'm like, dude. And then once he no longer got my reaction, guess what happened? He took responsibility for his own crap. And so, that's the thing, man, and you're spot on. I think people people are just trying to get reactions.
I was thinking about when I was a kid, I used to say, I'm running away. My mother said, she'd say, great, I'll pack your bags.
Right. You take all the power away from them in that moment. And they're like, well, shit, what am I supposed to do now? Pardon my language, everyone. But so I do have a couple of questions that I like to ask every guest. And that is, we've kind of already covered it, but recap real quick, if you would. What's the number one thing, in your opinion, holding people back in life from achieving what they truly desire?
the inability to feel discomfort.
Mm.
That if you can, like, all the stuff we've been talking about today involves the ability to sit quietly with yourself and observe, like you said, create the witness, the observer of your own experience. But when you sit quietly with the witness, then all the stuff that's happening that you are witnessing can be very uncomfortable. And what we usually do is we'll run to whatever our addiction of choice is, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, work, relationships, and we'll just do anything we can, or just thinking, not to face the discomfort. But when you've practiced the art of facing discomfort and allowed it to wash through you, you develop a superpower that you don't have. So the ability to face discomfort will have a great impact on your success in life.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. Second thing is this. Somebody calls you up, they get you on the phone. People don't have access to celebrities like you. I'm just kidding. But like, they get you on the phone and they say, man, my car was repoed last week. My electric's being shut off tomorrow. I've tried everything I know how to do. I can't even buy food. I'm just screwed. I don't know what to do. They're at the end of their rope and they don't know which direction to go. How do you help that person in that moment get through that?
Well, there are a few answers to that. One is, I feel like, I view part of my responsibility is helping people with the experiences, right? Yeah. So there are strategies, tools that I can help people with to essentially kind of fall into the eye of the hurricane, where there's this storm going on around them in their lives, but there's also like, how can I just find some serenity inside of this? So that's part of it, right? It's not all of it, because clearly that individual you just described has some work to do. There's some things that need to happen, and maybe we need to reach out and get some support from others. Maybe they're being held back by pride, or maybe they just don't know who to talk to. So there are pragmatic considerations, and I'm more than happy to help people around those areas.
Sure.
Maybe in that situation, I lend a hand, right? I don't know, because I don't know the actual situation, but the reality is that when somebody's really caught up, one of the most powerful and quick remedies is something I call find your goat.
Find your goat?
Find your goat.
G-O-A-T.
Yeah, so here's the story. It comes from a story. It's a Nasruddin story. It's a Sufi story. Nasruddin was a folk hero. You get to read a lot of stories, Nasruddin stories.
Yeah.
And one of the stories is the story of Nasruddin is living in a little tiny cabin with like one bed and, maybe like 5 by 6 size built, room, with his wife and his 5 kids and his in-laws and his parents and a few of the neighbors and his dog and his cat and a goat. And they got to like jam the door closed at night to go to sleep. And there's no room for anybody. And in the middle of the night, one night, the door blows open and the goat gets out and the door slams back shut again. Okay. And he wakes up in the morning and he goes, wow, there's so much space in here. And the moral of the story is he didn't have to empty the whole place to feel some spaciousness. He just needed to get rid of that one goat, right? So for all of us, what's your goat? What's the one thing that's big, that's the biggest obstacle right now, that if you got that one thing taken care of, it would give you some breathing room, it would give you some space with which you could then figure out the next step and the next step and the next step. But find your goat.
Wow. That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. I love that, man. We all have something that holds us back.
Yeah.
Something. Gotta learn how to get rid of it.
Yeah, well, present company included. So we're all on a journey. And if I could be of any assistance to anybody, I mean, like I've got my books, I've got my audios, I've got my website.
Talk about your books. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring those up.
Oh, well, On Hypnosis, that's right. On Hypnosis is my first book. I wrote it back in 2006. It's based on that invisible wall story. It's how to wake up, start over, and create the life you're meant to live. It's about reinventing your life. I'm very proud of that one. Brian Tracy said it helps you release your brakes, snap out of your comfort zone, and accomplish more than you ever thought possible. So if you're at a transitional point in your life and you're looking to figure out, what do I want my life to look like? Finding that core of who you really are, then your values, your beliefs, your strategies, your goals, and then ultimately manifesting it and then bringing it out into the world. That's what that book is about.
Wow.
And then, from there, I created a couple programs that spun off from it. One of them is this one over
Yeah.
inner selling, which is how to sort of reprogram yourself to be the kind of person who can sell effectively, right?
Yeah.
Come from your heart
Right.
and your wisdom, right? So that's what that is. And my most, then I've got the one on the other side. I'm afraid to raise that one. Procrastination Annihilation is a home study course to help you overcome procrastination and kind of become more mindful about your procrastination. And then the most recent one is that it's called. Thanks, Hector. Is called Bulletproof. What if everything that bugged you, blocked you, or brought you down didn't? And so it's really for like you're not getting ready to leave your new job, your current job, but you are trying to figure out how can I like excel where I am? How could I perform well while I'm under pressure, while I'm under stress? What do I do? What are the steps? And that's
Right.
what that book is about. And yeah, so those are a few. Then there's that orange one that's over one of my shoulders. It's a compilation book. You should all check that one out on Amazon. I didn't write the book, but I have a chapter in it. So does Eric, by the way. It's called One Habit, and it's 100 chapters that are each like 2 pages long from 100 different speakers. It's the 100 happiest achievers on the planet.
Wow.
About how to approach your life with happiness and achieve. And it's great. See, I think of those as like bathroom books. You put them on, you go in there, you just read a page, and it inspires you for the day. So that's a good one too. And then
awesome.
and then we've also got all of Eric's cool books. So his little flip book and everything from Habitude Warrior. And you guys should all check out Habitude Warrior Conference, because it's an amazing conference and it's probably coming to a city near you.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome, man. Dude, you're awesome.
Back at you, man. You're awesome too. It's been a really fun conversation. I appreciate the time, and it's been great. And I know Woody's getting ready to go on a walk with me here pretty soon, so he'll be happy.
Awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone who tuned in today and watched this interview, and for the replay viewers and podcast listeners, thank you so much. Make sure you reach out to Dr. Steve Taubman. That's Taubman. Reach out to him, follow him on social media, and connect with this guy, because if you've listened this far, you know that he is a good dude. So thank you for being on here, Dr. Steve. I appreciate you. And don't hang up on me. I'm going to end the live broadcast, though. So thank you, guys. Appreciate you. And we will see you tomorrow. I have Mr. Mark Victor Hansen and his wife on the show tomorrow. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.